Hello, my name is Alex Lopez with Issues in Education, and I have Mr. Adel Mozip. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You are a School Board of Education member in Dearborn School District in Michigan.
Correct.
So we're not too far from each other, so we'll make sure we contact each other. A little bit of your background, you were telling me you come from the tech side of things?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've been a software developer for 12 years.
Okay.
And I graduated from Fordson High School in 2004 and then went on to get my bachelor's in computer engineering, computer science in 2008 and worked for CompuWare. 2008 was the worst year to graduate from college. It was like you were looking for jobs everywhere. And, But I was fortunate enough to find a job with CompuWare since I interned with them actually a number of times. So I worked for CompuWare and then Urban Science, another IT company, and then a health system for 3 years. And now I teach online. I teach coding.
And I have with me Michael Flood.
With Kajeet.
Kajeet. And I'm glad you joined us because the topic at the school board conference here has been all over the digital equity area.
Yes.
And your company specializes in that. And you're also a partner with NSBA.
Yep.
How many districts have you worked with?
So we work today with about 2,500 school districts across the United States and Canada. We were working with about 1,100 before the pandemic. But of course, this issue of student broadband connectivity became such a big issue during the pandemic that grew a lot during the pandemic.
We're here with Mr. Donald Hubler. He is Macomb, correct? That's somewhere in Michigan, right?
Southeastern
Michigan, right? And you were one of the board of directors for NSBA, correct? Right. And I know you're we have something in common, right? We're planning commissioners of sorts.
Yeah, so it continued involvement in community, yes.
That's right, absolutely. So we're I guess of the same servant's heart.
Yeah.
Correct? One of the things that I'm interested in is I know that computer science education is pretty important to you.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to connect the dots here. Computer science education kind of erases the cultural thing, right? Because it's about numbers, it's about equations, and they don't really care where you come from or
I think
right?
folks in that industry probably have made it harder for folks to understand us in tech. Folks think we're wizards, right? We make things happen and behind the scenes.
So
we're just regular. I'm not a magician.
You're not a magician?
Yeah, I helped build with two others. We built the mobile application and the web application for people to register for the COVID vaccine app. When we put it up, we were so proud of ourselves and we're patting each other on the back. 2 hours later, the app crashed because we had so much people.
Everybody was trying to
register to get the vaccine. But however, it's a situation where you put yourself in and be like, do we really, as far as tech folks, do we really present ourselves to other non-tech folks in a way where people will embrace us? And when some people say computer science as a language, I need to teach that language to my 8-year-old, to my 12-year-old, to even elementary. We start teaching languages. Now, computer languages are different than human languages, but I think there is a number of equal languages, computer languages, to human languages. And even in human languages, you have dialects. In computer languages, you may have the same.
It's not that different.
So, but syntax is different. Algorithms are the same. We need to start teaching algorithms. I attended a session today about artificial intelligence, and it's great that we're gonna have some Alexas and some Google Homes in our schools, but when do we actually teach that stuff?
Okay, and
when do we make those students think about how could they be the next Google?
And one of your goals as a Board of Education member is bring that education down at the lower levels to start to get the information earlier.
Absolutely.
And the younger the kids get it, the easier it's going to be when they're in high school and college.
My 8-year-old had TikTok and I didn't know.
Yeah.
He put a fake birthday to get in, but when he went to his cousin's house, he made that account and he started videotaping himself and doing the random But we live in an age, a digital age, and I tell, whenever I do my seminars to parents, and especially Arab parents or Yemeni parents or Hispanic parents, immigrant parents, I tell them you live in it's a double challenge. You live in a digital world right now, and you also have a Western culture that may take away your culture. And we talk about assimilation, and that's a different topic, but you don't need to assimilate. You're amazing the way you are. You need to teach your kids. If you speak Spanish, teach your kids Spanish. Folks who tell you, no, you need to teach your children one language because they get confused. No, they're not telling you the right thing. Because that's what they told me when my son has ASD. They told him, teach him only one language. I regret that. Because now he speaks both languages, but his writing still needs a lot of work in Arabic. But we need to teach our kids more than one language. If you're in Dakota and you only speak English, try to find somewhere online, there are so many online resources where you can teach your kids another language. It will help them global. We live in a global world right now.
It's a global economy, it's a global
And if you
society.
go to medical school, Mr. Lopez, they're gonna ask you, do you know another language? And if you don't, in undergrad, you get to start taking that language. So might as well start early when you can actually harness that language and speak as a native instead of speaking as somebody who is a non-native.
Languages, whether it's a true linguistic language or computer
language.
Computer language,
you got
right?
that.
Digital equity actually is something I've been passionate about for about 15 years. And so I worked on this problem when I worked for some of the big carriers before I came to Kajeet to build the education division here.
Okay.
And my passion is making sure that every student can reach their full potential. And so when you have students who leave school and have different resources available to them, as more and more of their educational practice and their homework requires the use of the internet to do effective research or to collaborate with their peers, if they don't have those tools or they don't have the access, they're at a significant disadvantage compared to other students. And unfortunately, it doesn't only impact them, because when that student is at a disadvantage, if they can't do their homework, they show up in school the next day without their homework done, and it ends up slowing the entire class down. The teacher's practice is impacted. So solving digital equity, I think this is really what a lot of school districts are realizing now, is that solving digital equity as a district-wide initiative lifts all students' performance up because it frees teachers to use the best available tools and resources.
So, we're hopefully moving past the pandemic, but what was learned during the pandemic compared to before the pandemic? What was that?
No, it's a great comparison. So before the pandemic, the homework gap was a very big topic. And, as I said, we were working with over 1,000 districts before the pandemic. But we were really focused on homework, right? So when you think about homework, it's, some assignments that a student has to do in the afternoon or the evening, maybe some projects they have to work on. During the pandemic, it really shifted to be all about full-time virtual learning all day. And so the bandwidth requirements were much higher, and the number of students impacted was much higher. And the visibility of the problem was also much higher. So you can think about it, even if you were, if you had children and you're watching them go to school online, and you see that their classmates aren't showing up.
Right.
You now understand that some of their classmates don't have access. So the issue of digital equity became much more well known throughout the country. And NSBA has actually done some polling on this topic. They produced a video around the homework gap, which is on the NSBA website. But the polling on this topic found that there was broad bipartisan support and understanding of the importance of addressing this equity issue. And so now as we're heading out of the pandemic, I think the big concern is kids are coming back to school for the school day. We want to make sure we don't slide back into that world where some of those kids leave school and don't have access again.
So different districts have cultural gaps. They're and not everybody is starting at the same level.
Absolutely.
So how does the digital equity start to bring certain cultural groups up to be parity with what others already are there?
So you're bringing up a very important point. And even within the world of digital equity, there are digital cultural elements that are different. So when you think about it, if if my son comes from a family where, we've always had access to computers, he's grown up around them, mom and dad use them, they know how to troubleshoot it. Even if you give my child the same computer that you give to a child who doesn't have those benefits,
right,
you can't expect performance to be the same,
right,
because of the support structure around the student.
Yeah.
So it's very important that as districts are addressing digital equity, it's not just the actual technology that they need to have, it's the support structure.
I see.
It's digital citizenship, teaching students how to behave online, how to use tools and resources, and sometimes reaching out to the families to help them understand how the technology is going to be used and how they can support their child with that technology in the home environment.
We are data-driven people now, and the things that we do are data-driven. And when we have those decisions that are based on data, they're sound, and it's usually pretty difficult to have a different opinion that the data shows. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel on that subject?
I go back a little bit of history. I was a DPW director, and back 25 years ago when we first started talking about geographical information systems, the whole idea of attaching data to a physical point or something that could be communicated. So we started understanding there was an opportunity to communicate information consistently across a broad spectrum. So data is something that drove infrastructure, and much of the discussion now we see in the country, that we see infrastructure as an issue. It's not only roadways now, we see infrastructure. But also what we see is how information and data can be used to make informed decisions about education. But I'd also argue that much of what we didn't do 25 years ago as far as utilizing the data to make those best decisions financially, planning-wise, et cetera, we haven't done that well with education either. Unfortunately, through COVID, I think we see the numbers just present themselves in ways that are undeniable now. Unfortunately, this data underperforms from different, whether ethnicity, economic groups, location, they say zip codes.
Learning loss, right? That's measurable.
Now we have probably the greatest disruption to education in the United States history. So what do we do now? Now, as we were talking, working with local governments, we maintain a lot of data on demographics.
Absolutely.
What we do. In this country, we're losing population. Our average income level has almost decreased in the greater Detroit area where I'm from. The participation in the workforce has dropped. That's not good for anybody.
No, that's they're calling it the Great Resignation lately, right? That's kind of the label that's happening.
Yeah. The United States has this great ability to gather information and not use it. If you look, if anybody's interested through GIS or whatever, Esri Products has this free access to data that's available across the country.
From all their testing.
Oh, it's just amazing.
Yes.
You can do anything. In my local and council governments, one of the issues we had, of course, is broadband, access for students to reach it. Everybody, and even the FCC knows that their mapping is faulty. It just doesn't work. We were able to use basic census data and other data from Esri to produce maps in southeastern Michigan that can pinpoint problem areas and where you can best serve. Now, recently we received a tremendous influx of resources for broadband access. How do you, if you don't have the data,
how are you going to use it properly?
How do you use it?
Yeah.
So data doesn't, it's not human enough.
It's not the end game.
No.
I think you still have you still need the human interaction. You need to analyze what you're looking at, and because it's a mountain of information, and some of it is relevant and some of it isn't.
Right, and that's where the human side comes in. The greatest thing we have are our teachers. Through this challenge that we've had, the opportunities they've worked so hard to have.
Absolutely.
So we're very fortunate on school boards. We have the opportunity to look at data, to communicate a commonality. The same mapping that we did in southeastern Michigan could be structured across this country. I think I've tried to communicate that with the FCC.
Well, we love hearing this because I know some of your peers will be listening and watching this video, and you might get a lot of phone calls for information.
If they went to the Southeast Michigan Council of Government website, went to maps and data and looked at the broadband mapping, they would see pinpoint details broken down by school district on where they are. But then other numerous, the other type of things we can do, it's simplistic. We have sidewalks mapped from aerial projections. Sounds simple, but how important it is to provide access for kids to get to school.
How are you going to get to school, right? Especially in Southeast Michigan. It snows by the foot there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can. And again, data is this country. I mean, what if the most efficient thing we could do, or the tools that we already have in front of us, is to work to make them better utilized instead of trying to defend your position or create an issue or whatever that is, to actually use it to improve opportunity.
That's right.
That is the most efficient. And something right in our hands right now. Data-driven decisions take the emotion out of decisions. Right. And that's part of what, unfortunately, there's been a significant discussion on issues and science. Education's non-political.
Oh, absolutely, it shouldn't be.
Shouldn't. There's no child that is,
There's no 6-year-old that votes.
But when we come down to what we can agree on, are facts, or we should be able to defend, and not again to create an issue, but to begin to understand, to ask better questions, so we come up with better answers.
I thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, same here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for coming to Issues with Education. So,
my pleasure.
Out to Michael Flood. You have a lot of great information. He is a partner with NSBA, so please reach out and contact him. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Okay.